The Philippines faces a hidden learning crisis, and English proficiency may now be a deciding factor in whether Filipinos compete or fall behind globally. To tell us more about that, joining us is Mike Cabigon, Head of Exams for the Philippines at the British Council. Mike, welcome to the program and thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Rain. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. What for you have been the top reasons people take English language tests and courses?
Well, English essentially is a passport to opportunities. In the British Council, a lot of our clients take the IELTS to be able to study, work, and live overseas. I mean, it enables them to achieve their aspirations, Rain.
I noticed that you've been doing this for more than a decade now, and I've seen that you have tracked or monitored some of the trends over the years. Have you been able to track whether they were able to use these IELTS results for successful placements?
Yes. Actually, if I can share some stories we have. In 2023, the UK, Canada, they opened opportunities for skilled workers. So for a long time, IELTS has always been a test for healthcare workers, nurses in general. But during 2023, 2024, we've seen a surge of skilled workers, butchers, linesmen, caregivers even, applying for the IELTS to be able to work and live in the UK, Canada, even Australia. And it's a good thing because these are mainly the skilled people that work in wet markets for the butchers, perhaps. And they're now in the UK, some with their families already.
And looking at the scores of the examinees over the years, what kind of trend are you seeing? Is there a decline or rise? And what do you think might be behind it?
Right. So IELTS publishes annually the country reports in terms of the number of test takers and the average scores that these test takers have. In the past 2 years, we've seen, sadly, a small decline in the proficiencies, in particular, the specific skills of the IELTS test in reading, writing, and speaking even. So this is something that's alarming a bit, and I see this is also aligned with what has been discovered in the EDCOM 2 and in the research that we've done on English as a subject in basic education.
And is there a reason that you see as having been behind this decline?
If we would cite the EDCOM 2 report, we've seen that it's systemic. Basically, the system failed somehow. We did the K-12, and with the EDCOM 2 review, we realized that it's somehow strained the whole system with a lot of objectives, basically. And that was contributory to the fact that the language proficiencies have gone down for English.
And because of this, do you see any correlation, possible correlation between English proficiency rate of a certain people and how well the country's economy performs? I mean, I'm sure you might be privy to the results, not just of the Philippines, but also of other countries.
Yeah, I wouldn't say there's a direct correlation with English proficiency and the economic outlook of a country, because we know there are countries that are doing better, but then their main language is not English, essentially. But for the context of the Philippines, we know that our main booster for the market is our English proficiency, and for a long time we held on to that. We pride ourselves for being the good English speakers in this part of the world. But slowly that is being challenged by neighboring countries because of their policies in education, changes in how they do English and how they do their basic education. So somehow I would say it's threatened in a way, and we need to do something to be able to reinforce that claim that we are good in English in this part of the world.
So their English proficiency training in other countries, in our neighboring countries, is better than that of here in the Philippines. So it's not a cultural shift. Like, it's not because of the Korean wave, for example, that more people are endeavoring to learn more Korean rather than English.
It's not that their English training is better. It's just that their governments perhaps have identified that English proficiency is actually contributory to better opportunities for their citizens. Governments in Malaysia, in Taiwan, in Korea, in Singapore, they have invested in improving their education system, even Vietnam, to include English and fortify how it is being taught in the education system to ensure better opportunities for their students.
Now, finally, just setting up the stage here, is there a correlation between the literacy rate of a country and their proficiency in English, or vice versa? Let's reverse it. If one gets English language mastery down already, will all other skills proficiency follow?
Right. So literacy basically is reading and writing. It can be in any language. So I wouldn't say there's a direct correlation, because English, like in the context of the Philippines, it's our second language in essence, because Filipino, Tagalog, we have our mother tongues as well. But for the context of the Philippines, in the way that things are in the Philippines, government, business, education is in English. All our documents are in English. We feel that our literacy is anchored to English proficiency, because our textbooks, our media, everything is in English. And for us to be able, or for the students to be able to get through and achieve their goals, better English proficiency would be essential.
You already mentioned that there is some level of coordination, or at least information from EDCOM, you know, the Philippine government. But for you, reviewing all of the British Council's IELTS results from all around the world, is it telling you or giving you a profile of the Filipino people or the policies of the Philippine government that, you know, we may not be aware of? Are there, how should policymakers, for example, respond differently based on that data?
Yes, that's correct, Rain. We have data, and we have been sharing that with our government partners. In fact, in 2019, the Commission on Higher Education launched their English Roadmap, or the National Roadmap for Global Competitiveness and Communication Skills. And I'm working with the team actually to ensure that the higher education institutions adapt the recommendations of CHED for the English Roadmap. TESDA, through their National Language Skills Center, have updated and will continue to update their English language courses to be aligned with the Common European Framework of References. Previously, they only have one English course, that's English for call centers. Now, they will be diversifying that into English courses that are according to level, B1, B2, C2, C1 level English. So there are changes happening, and we're glad that we are able to work with these government agencies to make those happen.
There was a recent report recently that said that you know, with the decline in the level of skills of our graduates right now, the only thing that they can look forward to is work in a BPO or even a call center. But I question that, because I think there's still a high level of proficiency that is required even at the BPO and call center industry.
Yes, I agree with you. The BPO work shouldn't be looked down at. They actually provide good opportunities for our graduates. Indeed, yes. Maybe in 2015, 2016, there was a lot of noise from the call center industry, BPO industry, saying that the graduates do not meet the requirements for English proficiency. They have a hard time hiring people. But recently, that has toned down. We don't see that published. We don't see that coming from anybody. So perhaps something might have happened, shifted, that are enabling them to recruit good or quality agents into the BPO sector.
Are there, with this decline in the level of reading and writing and speaking that the Filipinos can do, is there any kind of immediate intervention that we can probably implement in the next maybe 12 months that can start reversing this trend realistically?
Right. In terms of an immediate solution, there can be some things that could be done. We are working with higher education institutions, I mentioned earlier, because for one, PACOCOA has installed or initiated including English as a requirement for the accreditation of their programs of the universities that are members of PACOCOA. So universities now need to show proof that their students are B1 level and their teachers are teaching at B2 level to be able to have their programs accredited. That's an initial step And we're looking forward to having graduates with better language levels when they exit universities or the higher education system sooner or later. And we're continually working with other universities, the state universities, AACOP, and the local colleges and universities to support improving English language proficiency in higher education. Alongside that is our work as well with DepEd, NAEAP, Teacher Education Council, to address the basic education sector as well.
Would you say that Filipinos actually invest in English language proficiency or training for mobility? Is there a way that government might be able, or even the private sector might be able to support them?
Well, for the short term, yes. We've seen that with some of our partners. I've mentioned about the skilled workers that have been taking the IELTS before. Their recruiters abroad have invested in IELTS preparation for them to be able to meet the requirement. The thing is, they are skilled. They're good at the things they do. But the main challenge is the English language requirement for their work visas for the UK or for Canada. And it's a good thing that our partners as well, the IELTS preparation centers that we work with, are able to provide them with the proper support to ensure that they achieve the scores that they needed for the IELTS and be able to work abroad and proceed with their visa applications.
Which sectors in the Philippines do you think stand to gain the most from stronger English proficiency? Or which countries have the biggest demand for Filipinos with high English proficiency?
Right. Okay. I'll focus on your first question first, on which industries will benefit. I would identify three. Basically, tourism industry. It's something that we need to boost, and the English proficiency of our hotel staff, frontliners, tourists, guides would essentially impact that industry. Another would be the education sector. Most of our universities now even schools, are internationalizing, trying to work with partners overseas to improve the quality of higher education in their institutions. And English would be a facilitator for these partnerships to flourish. The other would be, of course, our growing BPO sector. They say that AI would take away jobs for the BPO sector, but perhaps I believe that a better English language proficiency would enable our potential BPO workers to work with the AI and still secure our leadership in that particular sector globally.
Cool.
As for the other question,
on which countries might be able to benefit from a very proficient or highly proficient in English kind of Filipino?
Yes. You know, Rain, if I may share, Filipinos are in demand overseas. Healthcare workers, for one. And then the skilled workers, the butchers, the linesmen I've mentioned earlier, the caregivers. Back in 2023, 2024 again, we have partners overseas who are recruiting skilled workers. And it is sad because they've asked us to actually introduce them to our colleagues, British Council colleagues in Africa. And I queried why that would be necessary, because they are frustrated that they're not able to meet the recruitment targets in the Philippines because some nurses, some skilled workers are not able to meet the English language requirements. So they want to look at South Africa, other countries in Africa who may be able to meet the English language requirements that they would need. And it's sad because it's our niche supposedly. And these are Canada, UK, Australia, and there's a lot of opportunities for Filipinos if we can just sustain our proficiencies, good English language proficiencies in English.
I remember it became, the IELTS exam became very, very prominent over the pandemic because a lot of Filipinos had been hoping to get a residence visa in the UK and Canada and in all kinds of different places. Do you see a trend? Has there been a decline or rise in the past few years since the pandemic, 2020, in the number of examinees that you have for IELTS?
Well, yes, to be honest, we've seen a decline, but this is mainly a result of changes in the policies of the receiving countries, we say. So back in 2024, I think Canada imposed restrictions on foreigners generally coming into Canada. Australia, for one, has increased the application rates for students coming from overseas. The UK also put a slight stop on the recruitment of healthcare workers, trying to recruit internally first. So there are factors in these receiving countries that have impacted the demand for IELTS for Filipinos, and generally the opportunities for Filipinos to come to their countries. But we're hoping sooner or later that these would change and the gates would be open again for Filipinos.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a little bit of sentimental, maybe a sad, idea in the whole trend. Now, perhaps if we could leave with one thought, if you could align government, schools, and industry on one national priority for the next 3 years, what would it be for the British Council, and what does success look like in numbers when it comes to English proficiency?
Right. So in terms of success, and it's always something that we say to our candidates, we want them to achieve their target scores or their target band scores on their first take. So we hope for them to be able to achieve 6.5, 6, 7, 5, or whatever score they needed on their first take. That's why we have a lot of preparation resources for them. And hopefully that would increase the average scores of test takers from the Philippines based on the annual report of IELTS.org. And hopefully that would enable all Filipinos to achieve their aspirations for better lives overseas.
And I share that sentiment with you wholeheartedly. Thank you so much, Mike Cabigon, Head of Exams for the Philippines at the British Council. We appreciate your insights and your work in helping Filipinos navigate global opportunities through education and language. Thank you.
Thank you, Rain.